Hey everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Today we're talking about a knife that many of you, if not all of you, are familiar with. A knife that's a classic, a legend, a must-have in a lot of people's collections. And you've already seen the title, so you know what it is. It's a Spyderco PM2. Now I think I'm going to be calling this video something like the Spyderco Paramilitary 2, a critical reevaluation, or something like that. But that's not, that's not exactly what we're going to be doing here. The PM2 is a knife that I have always known and accepted to be just great. A fantastic user, a fantastically well-made knife, just a great design. It's always been good, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people agree with that, right? This is a great knife. They've been made for years and years. They're still being made. They're very popular. I think there's a good reason for that. However, I also think that a lot of people, especially when you're an enthusiast, you start getting into the enthusiast side of things, and I don't know if we get snobby or if we just, there's so much out there to explore and to take in that sometimes I think we move on from the classics. Right? We go to different pastures, not necessarily greener ones, just different ones, right? So I recently got back from geology field camp, and I made a video about the gear I used while I was out in the field for, a month and a little bit, and that's a great video. I highly recommend you check it out if you have not already. I think it's a good one. But in that video, I talked about some of the knives I had with me, and I mentioned that the knives I ended up with in the field were kind of strange to me. I didn't feel like the pocket knives I had were 100% what I wanted to have out there. And I was feeling this from like day one. And, I'm out in the wilderness doing research and stuff, and it just occurred to me that, I didn't have a knife that I felt covered everything I wanted my folding knife to cover. I felt, honestly, a little bit naked, right? And it struck me what I was missing. The knife that I wanted, the folding knife that I wanted out in the field, was a PM2. And after this dawned on me, I couldn't get it out of my head. Every night I was sitting thinking, man, I wish I had my PM2. Every time I had a knife task and I pulled out my folding knife, I thought, I really wish I had my PM2. A lot of things I use my folding knives for, opening packages, cutting fabrics, food prep, lots of food prep with my folding knife. And the whole time, I felt like the knives I had with me just didn't do everything exactly the way I wanted it to. And the PM2 would have. And so I want to kind of talk about why I think the PM2 is one of the greatest folding knives ever made. And I know a lot of people have already talked about this. A lot of people have said this. But I got to say, not having access to one of my PM2s, and as you can see here, I've got two PM2s, and we'll talk about this here in a little bit. Not having this knife, but wishing I did, made me appreciate how dang good it really is. First thing first, I think the PM2 is a great size. One of the things I appreciate in a folding knife is I like a full-size folding knife, right? I want a blade that's between 3 1/4 and 3 1/2, 3.6 inches. This blade here, 3.4 inches. It's a full-size knife. The other thing you get with a full-size knife is a full-size grip. And the PM2, the ergonomics are fantastic. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But it's a full-size knife. This is enough blade to do basically anything you need to do with a folding knife, right? If you have a task that, maybe needs a little more blade than this, have a fixed blade, right? And that's what, I had a fixed blade out there, and the fixed blades I took to field camp were fantastic. But yeah, full-size knife. The next thing is, this thing is not heavy. The PM2 is not a heavy knife. It's pretty lightweight. I'm not going to say it's a featherweight or anything, but it's lightweight, right? And so at field camp, I wanted a folding knife that wasn't going to weigh me down. I'm scrambling up and down rock walls. I'm, crawling down into crevices and stuff. I wanted something that was, full size, but not obnoxious, right? Not huge and heavy. And I also wasn't really wearing jeans. I was wearing a thinner hiking pants. This would have been fantastic. This is a great weight. This would have been really, really nice to carry. The other thing, too, is there's lots of carry options. You have a 4-way positionable pocket clip. So, if I want to, for example, put this on my gear, I probably would want to have the tip up or the tip down clip. You can swap out pocket clips for all kinds of different things. But yeah, there's a lot of versatility there. It's easy to use one-handed. This big hole here is fantastic, right? You can open this knife in the most awkward situations. You can get your knife open, get it out, and use it. Closing it, I've said this in the past, and I stand by this. I am not the biggest fan of the compression lock. I'm just not. I think it's fine, right? It's very strong. It's very durable, which durability is something that definitely is important in a lot of applications, especially if you're going to be using your pocket knife a little bit harder. But yeah, I'm not the biggest compression lock fan. But, easy one-hand opening, and you can close it one-handed, right? You can close it. I wouldn't say it's the, most secure thing. You kind of got to, get your fingers all the way up here and stuff. But it's easy to use, right? Next thing, this is a great blade. This is a fantastic blade shape. Full flat grind, very slicey. You got a nice, acute tip. You can dig, you can poke. Very, very good. You can do food prep stuff. You got, pretty much continuous belly, a little bit of straight back here, but pretty much a continuous sweep to the tip. So yeah, you can get down to on cutting boards and stuff. However, despite having all that belly, it's still, like I said, easy to get to that tip if you want to do some utility cuts and stuff. Fantastic blade shape. And Spyderco, they know how to do steels, right? They absolutely know how to treat a steel. And so whatever steel you have your PM2 in, it's going to perform good. And we're going to talk about steels more here in a little bit. Ergonomics. We're going to talk about the ergonomics. Fantastic. Fantastic ergos. This was something that I love the ergonomics on the PM2. They work out perfectly. If you're back here and you put your thumb there, it works. When I'm choked up here, I just find my thumb rests just right there on top of the blade really easily. You can choke up, get real close to that edge, get a little more reach back here. The G10 scales, look, I've got 2 PM2s. I keep meaning to buy aftermarket scales to spice them up a little bit. But every time I think I'm going to, I just realize that I don't really need to. I really like the stock scales on the PM2. They're nice and smooth in here, but the texture out here is nice and grippy without being a pocket destroyer. I like the way the PM2 feels in hand, right? I like the way it feels in hand. It's very secure. It's very solid. I think that's really important. So, the PM2 is a great knife. It really is, and I missed my PM2. I think this would have been the knife to have, at field camp. This would have been the knife to have. I carried, there's knives that I carry out in the woods that are bigger and heavier and thicker. My Cold Steel 8015, for example. Love that knife. It's a heavy knife, but I'm wearing jeans. I've got it in my pocket when I'm out in the woods and stuff. That's fantastic. It works great. I love that knife. But for the specific purposes that I needed a knife for at field camp, I took my 8015 Light and I carried it one day. One day, and I was done. It was just a little bit too awkward for me. This is a full-size knife in a convenient package. It cuts like a knife should. The build quality is great. Here's something. This was the first PM2 I bought. And I bought this PM2 because when I was first getting in the hobby, I actually bought a clone PM2. And I felt really bad about that. I was a college kid when I was, getting into this type of stuff, freshman. And I bought a clone PM2 because, I didn't have money for a real one. And I just felt bad about it. So, that summer working at my job, I saved up. I bought this PM2. And when I took it out of the package and I held it and I flicked it open, I just kind of sat there for a second and I was like, wow, this feels like a real knife. This feels different than that clone did. This feels like a capable tool. And it is. It really is. So, I have two PM2s. Again, this one's my original one, and as you can see, this is the S110V version. This is the PM2 you guys see in all my reviews that's, put down for a size comparison. I use this PM2 a lot around, my house, my apartment, wherever I'm living at the time. Breaks down a lot of cardboard. You guys know the blade is always dirty. I use it a lot. However, I don't take this knife out in the woods. I don't take this knife out in the field because it's S110V. And if I chip this edge, it's going to be a pain in the butt to repair, right? It's held an edge forever. I do need to sharpen it now. It's getting to that point. But I don't want to chip it. S110V is not a very field-friendly sharpening steel. So, I was able to jump on the PM2 Tonto. I was able to jump in on one of the drops. I got this. It's an S30V. And this was kind of my PM2 that I would carry out in the woods and stuff. And I'm not going to say it's the best outdoors knife. This is definitely more of a tactical knife. And, I've carried it too in kind of, self-defense thinking situations. I always say this on the channel. The best self-defense knife is a 90mm, but, whatever. It's definitely kind of more tactical. Neither of these PM2s are what I would have wanted in the field. This one, I love the Tonto blade. That hull grind is amazing. It's very robust. It's very strong. But this is not the best food prep pocket knife, right? There's a lot of things that I don't think this would do as well as the leaf-bladed model. However, again, the S110V, this is not a steel that I would like to have, out in the... I didn't have any of my good sharpening gear with me, for weeks out in the, out camping and stuff. It's not really what... if something goes wrong, I don't want to be screwed over, right? So I'm probably going to buy myself another PM2. I've been thinking about it for weeks, months. Well, a month and a few weeks. And yeah, I'm going to get myself one of the S45VN paramilitary 2s because the PM2 is one of the greatest pocket knives ever made. And again, I've always appreciated the PM2. I've always liked the PM2. I've always known that it's a good knife, and obviously I've got two of them. I've always liked the form and function of the PM2, but I do think that I was kind of overlooking it a little bit. I've used this one a lot around the ranch and stuff, cutting hay string. Again, like I said, I took to the woods a lot. I've cut straps on pallets and ties of fence stays. But I want a PM2 that I think the S45VN is a great choice. Good stainlessness. I haven't tested S45VN, but if it's anything like S35VN, I love S35VN. Good stainlessness, holds an edge very well. S35VN is such a good steel. It holds an amazing edge. And when it does go dull, or if something happens to it, you can sharpen it in the field. That's something with, a lot of super steels. Sharpenability in the field is something that I think S35VN does a lot better than a lot of other super steels, right? 3V, is very good as well. But S35VN for stainless, it's so good. So good. I love S35VN. I'm sure S45VN is the same way. Stainless, good sharpenability, holds a great edge. And the toughness, you're not looking at something that's going to be as tough as a carbon steel. But I think I've never had much problem with S35VN. I've used a lot of S35VN from cold steel and stuff. Holds an amazing edge. You hit a nail or something while you're cutting, you hit a hard piece of wood, you hit a rock on something, you'll roll that edge before you chip it, in my experience. I've chipped S35VN a little bit, but even the chips are just kind of minor chips. It's easy to sharpen them out in the field. This knife with S45VN, I've been daydreaming about it. I've been dreaming about it every night. Every night at field, I'd go to sleep thinking, damn, I wish I had a PM2. And to me, that's a testament to this design, that I missed it so much. And again, I was thinking for a while, like, none of the knives I have with me right now are exactly what I want. You know, some of them are really good at some things or other things, but, you know, and I took some good knives with me too. Again, watch that video. I liked all the knives I took with me, but I'm like, there's just something's missing. And it was the PM2. It was the PM2. And I feel like a dum-dum, right? And now I'm gonna have to get another PM2 because I really do want to have. I really want to have a PM2 that's just rough and ready. Throw in my pack. Heck, I might even just keep it in my field gear, right, and not have to worry about, you know, packing it every time. It's already going to be there. It's already going to be ready and raring to go. Very, very good design. And so that's what we wanted to talk about today, guys. How I fell in love with the PM2 again. And just how great of a design this is. How timeless and classic and just downright amazing. This is an evergreen knife. The PM2 is an easy recommend. And again, I feel like in some ways I'm beating a dead horse. Because whenever someone gets into the knife community, the first thing they hear is, get yourself a PM2, right? Everyone. That's like, you know, the PM2 is kind of the first expensive knife I ever bought because it was the knife to get. It's kind of the knife, honestly. You know, it checks a lot of boxes. American made, interesting lock, good quality materials. You know, it exposes you to a lot of these things. So I feel like a lot of people already know, you know, like, duh, Gideon, you know, duh, the PM2 is a recommendable knife. And I recommend the PM2 to a lot of people, but I think I've also just not been giving it the credit it deserves. And again, you guys know me on this channel. You know that I use knives, and I love using my knives, and I use them hard, and I've used these knives a lot. But you never appreciate something until you don't have it, right? You never miss it until it's gone. And I'll be honest, I don't want to be in that position again. So I'm going to get myself another PM2. Maybe I'll pimp this one out. And I'm just going to add it to my field gear. And it's just going to stay in my backpack, and that's where it's going to be. And that's just going to be my field pocket knife. Because I think it's going to do everything great. Some of the things I didn't even touch on, like, yeah, the compression lock is strong. Running on washers, that's fantastic when you're out in the desert, you're out in the woods, you're out in somewhere. As a geologist, everything I have gets covered in dust. And I've had bearings just, you know, get gummed up and stuff. Washers are excellent. It's just, it's a good knife. It's a really good knife. Heck, I can even sit down by the campfire, you know, and fidget to my heart's content. They're fun fidget toys, so, you know, I guess that's an added bonus. But yeah, I think that's all I had to say about the Spyderco PM2. This is an amazing knife, and I'm sure a lot of you already own one or have owned one in the past. But if you haven't, from the bottom of my heart, you are missing out. You are missing out, and you should get one. And honestly, I think everyone should have a PM2 in their collection permanently, right? Keep it in your emergency bag, right? Your bug out bag, keep it in your 72-hour kit, keep it in your truck, you know, or carry it and love it. You can't go wrong with the PM2. So that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave it a like, comment below, and subscribe. I've been Gideon, and I'll see you in the next one.